Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. It's Monday morning here in New York City, on the cloudy side. So today, what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks, 11 weeks actually, is working with the major arcana in the Tarot. So what does that have to do with Venus? Everything has to do with Venus, because she's the bomb. And what we're doing here is we work with all levels of Venus, on an archetypal level, on a personal level, the power of beauty and the destruction of beauty, and we're constantly engaging in her field of energy, whether we're aware of it or not, because it comes in so many different ways. Today, well, two things. I spent the weekend curating my closets. It sounds so much more beautiful than cleaning my closets. So as I was curating, and I muse and I think about, wow, and there's so much real beauty in the world and beauty within, and I have this little personal theory that most people are terrified of the power of beauty. It's like, oh, no, I couldn't have that, or I couldn't do that, or I couldn't be that. Oh, yes, you can. Yes, yes, yes. You realize that you need strength. This road of consciousness is not for the faint-hearted at all. And once you open it up, man, it be with you, and you cannot close it down. You can repress it, which is not advisable, but certainly people do. And so that all has to do with this tarot card which we're using as a form of meditation, as a form of a talisman. Let's say you need strength. So you're going to walk around with this card, or you're going to meditate on this card. And as I said, you can someone can buy, because that's the tradition, is you need to be given a deck of tarot cards in the esoteric tradition. So I'm all for esoteric traditions. And sometimes if you're in a pinch and you're doing it, in a store or something, you can just ask a stranger and give them the money and say, please buy these cards for me. It's fudging, but, in a pinch. So this strength card, what's going on here? So up to now we've been working with archetypal images, and the strength card is one of the first cards. It's a woman, and she is opening the mouth of a lion. Now, that's a pretty powerful image. Imagine that. Imagine being able to do that. Of course. So what that represents is the positive anima. That female, that's what she has the power to do. To go in. I mean, she doesn't stick her head in the lion's mouth, that would be the negative anima. It's like, yeah, go stick your head there. Let's see what happens. Not good advice. But the one who could sit and the lion cooperates. Courage, heart rage, that's where that word comes from. I love etymology, because when we start to look at the root meaning of a word, well, very often we realize we're not using it properly. And even more importantly, where its root is, and the beauty, because words are power. So we try to use our words in a way that has a truth. See, part of the strength and the courage of consciousness is when we start hearing ourselves like, God, how many times am I going to tell myself that story? So write the story down and then change it. Just change a couple of words. Because we get hypnotized into our storyline. Give it a different ending. Give it a different beginning. Change it around. It's imagination. That's where it all begins. That's where the power and the strength of consciousness begins. Now, when we begin to understand, consciousness is not to make us feel good at all. It is really to shatter our preconceived beliefs or our our misunderstanding of wisdom. It's a living principle. These all are alive. And the anima, is not a goddess. The anima is an archetype. So she is the archetypal person symbolizing the hero's unconscious. And I don't have strict, the amazing thing about the Jungian stuff, and certainly the esoteric, there are rules and there's bones and there's foundations, but there's also room to move. So I'm not really 1,000% sold on, that the man only has the anima and the woman only has the animus. I mean, I think that's the beginning. I think that's the front door. That's the, ding dong, come in here. But as you begin to move, sometimes in an interpretation, in a dream, let's say, or an interpretation when I'm working with people, it starts to move, and it gets very kind of complicated in there. So it's not just the hero's anima. It's I think women have an anima too. So it's not all black and white. In the beginning, it needs to be black and white because we've got to just get used to the structure of psyche. So it's the feminine side. And there's, in this symbol of courage, she also wears a hat in some of the images that looks very much like the magician. So it lets you know that, you need courage and you need strength to follow your own path. Because very often what we're dealing with doesn't exactly feel comfortable, or we begin to realize like, wow, I thought that meant this. I didn't know it meant that. So it's like it also symbolizes like in the first half of life we're devoted to nature and to the ego, but into the second half we're devoted to the soul and the culture. Once again, not hard, strict rules, but certainly foundation, seeds of the foundation. So what we begin to understand in this card of strength, let's say you need strength. Sometimes we need just plain old-fashioned physical strength. Put yourself to sleep for 24 hours, Just sleep, rest, get away from it all. You'll be renewed. You'll come back. When you need the strength to face grief. And, there's a lot of loss in this process of transformation. Just like there's a lot of loss when we move from adolescence into young adulthood, and then from young adulthood into maturity. And maturity is really part of what we want to go for, where the essence of who we are begins to really turn into, in a sense, fine wine, a fine spirit. So this card will help you with that. It's a reminder. So in the remembering, we do have this strength. Psyche is never, ever going to give you an experience that you're not ready for, because she has been busy seeding the foundation long before the event comes into our life. So now, of course, that's asking for the strength it would take for that kind of leap of faith. The ego thinks it's running the show, it knows everything about us, and it's not. I mean, without the ego, we cannot comprehend what is going on. So we want the ego, and we want that to develop, but it always comes as a shock to the ego. It's like that psyche is busy creating other realities. So that is always a little piece of information that kind of soothes us. We can open the lion's mouth and let's just hope that lion doesn't have a toothache, because that would really be a drag. But, so, when you are allowing beauty to come into your life, you need strength, love, death, birth. These all take a very specific kind of strength. And, you meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it. Bang, there it is. Yeah, I said that. You meet your destiny on the road you took to avoid it. Because we can't outsmart it. And so often, what we think is destiny is not. It can be, just something we don't. Very often, it's what we don't understand. But if we just shut up and do the work and have the strength not to know. We always want to know before, and very often, people will ask, questions that really are to appease their anticipatory anxiety. They're anxious about what might be said, so they start asking questions. Well, how can you ask a question if you don't even know what's really going on? Because in the seed of the present moment is the past and in the future, and those are like three rings that are always moving into our life, always influencing one another. So it takes a lot of strength to not know. Just like it takes a lot of strength to appear foolish. I heard a quote the other day, and it was that negative people have a problem for every solution. And isn't that true? You'll help somebody with a solution, or you'll just say something different. They'll go, yeah, but. And they come up with another. It's like, wow, that quick. How'd you do that? It's a knee-jerk reaction. So then I know that's the voice of the negative side of the archetype that doesn't want the person to become conscious. Why doesn't it want the person to become conscious? Because then it loses strength. And that is what it is like, looking into our own nature. Sometimes looking into our own animal nature. The cat, any cat, big, small, little, male, female, is the feminine. So when we dream of cats, the condition that the cat is in is our relationship with the feminine. The dream, in a sense, you can look at it as like your daily horoscope. And speaking of horoscopes, I have read an amazing book, which I recommend with caution because it's very, very powerful. And it's called The Greatness of Saturn. It's the Vedic astrology, so it's a little bit different. But what is so marvelous about this book is that it really works with the story, the mythos, like a therapeutic myth. And it does take strength. And it's by Robert E., I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, Svoboda, The Greatness of Saturn. Wonderful information in here. Saturn is the Lord of Karma. So if we learn to have a good, and the strength to have a good relationship with Saturn, we can't avoid what Saturn is. Karma is custom made. It's not punishment. And I think that's a very important thing to see. It's that we're always creating our own and opposite experience. It's like an action, that's how we know where the karma begins, right? A person, let's say, decides to accuse you of something, right? It's like, oh my God, what's going on? How could they say that? All right, well, then you stop and say, okay, so does this have some shadow truth in it? Let me have the strength to at least imagine. Oh yeah, I could imagine that a little bit, but not, certainly not to the degree that somebody is projecting. So, that's one of the things when people accuse you of things, and when you can't, like, get your mind off of it or get your heart off of it, or you can't forgive, the reason that's happening is because some part of you agrees with that wounding. Once you realize that, it's like, wait a second, what part of me, just because a part of you agrees, that doesn't mean it's correct. It's like, whoa, I have to look at that in another way. And then we can, pull out something from our childhood and just like, wow, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I would have thought that I was supposed to be the family goat and, take on all those sins. Or the religion I was born in said, yes, basically you're paying the price of, Adam and Eve, which is nonsense. It's true energetically. Well, it may not be true personally in what is happening. So it's like having the strength to explore, having the strength to say, oh, I know why I can't forgive. What part of me thinks this is true? And then you can do active imagination and have a conversation with that part that thinks it's true, and then it can get integrated. It's all about integration, not about punishment. Punishment that's a man-made thing. Punishment, and punishment is to the level that we're punished, is to the level that we resist understanding why that's coming into our life. It's like, oh, I get it. I really do need to learn patience here. Or I was supposed to end that relationship a long time ago. I saw this coming and I didn't. So here it comes in this way. So when we begin to have the strength to look at our own actions, to whatever is going on, which is, I find, extremely beneficial, that the responsibility and the full responsibility of your life. And then when we start to realize, one of the highest forms of wisdom is kindness. Not sentimentality, not being a schlub, okay? But true kindness takes a lot of strength. So it's being able to understand, if we can, give without remembering and receive without forgetting. Now, I know that ego says, yeah, but it should be ego, even, I should do this. It's like, don't think about it. Just move the energy. Both of those, that one frees you, because if we just give, it's like, okay, just give, flow. This is the flow. This is what the world needs, or life needs, or our animals need. All right, we give. Do you remember how many times you walked the dog or cleaned the kitty litter box? Hopefully not. And then when we receive without forgetting, it's an honoring. Thank you, that person was there. It could be with a word or with an action. And we return that, if not directly to the person, to another person. And that's how we walk in beauty, which we can do. It's not about having beauty. It's like walking in it and with it and through it. So this strength card, so you need strength, all right? Or you just love strength, power of it. It's not a strength of overcoming. And in one way, this card is excellent when you need to wrestle with your angel. There's a difference between wrestling and fighting. Fighting we're just in opposition with. But when we're wrestling with our angel, we're trying to figure out, we start to know more about its nature when we're wrestling, just like when we're wrestling with a problem. All right. So this strength card lets us know that the truth comes from within yourself. And it's your deep inner light. And it's there. If we're patient enough, we'll just keep on working without a demand for an outcome. Because we're not working if we're always thinking about the goal. Well, this is going to give me. Or we pray with a goal to get. Well, that's not going to fly. Prayer is really, it's an intervention of what maybe we need a characteristic. Maybe we do need strength. We pray for that. Or we pray for understanding when we don't. It's not, or pray for others. But it's not always about getting. It's being in that state of prayer. It's what the situation is. Offering the up in prayer what the problem is, how you see it on both sides. You're not bossing the divine around. You're saying, look, this is happening, and I see its opposite over here, and I really, help me, but not dictate the outcome. If I got that man, or I got that woman, or I got that job, then I would be okay, and then, you get it, and you're not okay. Because we weren't okay, it was ill-motivated to begin with. Was it really? Very often we want something, and that's not really what we want. So it can have a bittersweet outcome. So this strength card is what we need to follow in good conscience. It's your happiness. And the happiness, and what are you going to do with that happiness? And do you want it full-time? That would be incredibly boring. All right, so we need to acknowledge the opposites within ourselves that will give us strength. We need to understand the strength it takes and the strength and dignity it takes others, and the strength it takes for other people when, let's say, we're acting out. The strength is the person wants to whack you, but they don't. That takes strength. And having the patience and being in the presence of another person who is struggling, and you can watch them. 1 minute they have clarity, and the next minute they're being pulled back into the old story, and having the love and containment. Strength is also containment. It's like a container. We can hold this while this little bag of monkeys are jumping all over the place and until they calm down, and then give us an idea of what is happening. So when we're seeking bliss to find bliss, even though you cannot see the future right now, if you know what your heart of hearts is saying, does it right, you'll come to that happiness. Sometimes the happiness is just being still. And in that stillness to really see within and without this tremendous joy and kind of the lust that life brings. So, and especially in the summer, the lust, just everything is oozing and beautiful and plump and happening. So it's kind of a divine intoxication. So when we are understanding and have the strength, or have the strength to just let go, it's just not right. or have the strength to react. And that's always a trick pony. You finally get to, you have a strong reaction, and someone says, you're overreacting. Well, guess what? That person is trying to neutralize your strength. There's no such thing as an overreaction. We react to the level of the potency. And so that's a very shaming reaction to get you under control. Instead of saying, no, my reaction, okay, I might have chose a different way to express it, but that reaction was the potency, the strength of my reaction. And then the next thing is you're overreacting, and guess what? You're crazy. That's right. I may be crazy, but that doesn't make me wrong, because there's crazy wisdom. So, don't get caught up in. Now, there's a difference between acting out, which some people just like to, they just like to carry on with their anger. They don't really have much else except the anger. That's what they've got. That's what they understand. But if you have a strong reaction to something, and that can only annoy you, piss you off even more when someone says you're overreacting. No, actually, you're underreacting. You're being put on notice that you're in dangerous territory. And the last thing you want to say to somebody, when you're in dangerous territory, is that they're overreacting. That is a trigger. Now, very often, because it's shaming, people will go like, oh my God, especially women, because we're not supposed to be angry, which is ridiculous. I didn't mean to overreact. No, I did mean to overreact. I did. I meant to blow as much libido. I meant to terrify you because you did not understand. You're pushing on, a raw nerve here that you have no comprehension of. And the passion and the intensity that's in those feeling values, all right, are responding. So that takes strength. Or it takes strength to understand what was going on. See, when something puffs out like that, and then we start reflecting, it's like, wow, I had no idea how deeply I felt about that was and is a true value. Now it's your job to go in there and find out what it is that you're valuing that got you to kind of channel that energy. It's not about feeling shame or being shamed. So the strength card, and we always can use a little bit of strength, is what we're working with. And as I said, you can work with these cards and listen to the other podcasts. I'm going to be taking down some podcasts from about a year ago. And so if you haven't listened, just download them. You can get them on iTunes. You can get them at Blog Talk Radio. You can get them at, put them up on Facebook or my website, LllorraineNeithardt.com. And this is going to be one of those game-changing weeks. So we need strength. And we also need strength sometimes in not doing. Just don't do anything. Wait. Watch. Unfold. You don't have enough information. So when we begin to work with now next week, we are going, so the strength card is this week. And when we begin to work with the hangman, that's a very different storyline. So sign up on Facebook, either on Venus Unplugged or Llorraine Neithardt, or go on my website and listen to this. It's real good stuff. People are growing. We must. There's an acceleration happening. And it's not anything we ever thought. So we've got 10 seconds left, and in in those 10 seconds, I wish you at least one moment of bliss and joy and the strength to be joyful, the strength to choose joy over misery, because that we can do. We can choose our reaction. We can choose, that's after we blow up, and we can choose that, and we can say no. And then watch how much inside of you doesn't want. It's like, no, get back to the bad mood. Get back to the bitching. Get back to telling that story. No, don't get back to that. I'm not filling my mind and my heart with misery or trying to solve something I have no power over. I'm going to look at some beauty. Beauty heals. Okay, till next week. Bye-bye.
Progressive presents Mindfulness with Flow.
You are a mighty fortress of supreme knowledge. Progressive Direct has not only revealed their rates, but those of their competitors. If you were any more in the know, you would be drowning in, the know.
Compare Progressive Direct rates with competitors' rates, because knowledge is power. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. Vary based on how you buy. Vary based on how you buy. Vary based on how you buy.